The NPL Victoria podcast is brought to you by Melville Bodyworks, located at 106 Melville Road, Brunswick West. For best-in-class panel beating and smash repairs and seamless support for insurance claims, call now on 8378 5555.
Went to Catalina Street, there's burgers on the walls. No wins since Dewatch left when it all began to fall. Are they ever gonna see 3 points again?
No way, yeah.
Are they ever gonna see 3 points again?
No way, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NPL Victoria podcast. It gives me no pleasure to have had to make that song as the number one ticket holder of the John Anastasiadis fan club and a proud member of the pro Burger brigade on this pod. It gives me no joy to have had to put that together, but these are unprecedented times and it calls for unprecedented introductions. Welcome back to the podcast. The Bergers are incredibly in NPL Victoria 7 games now without a win, back-to-back 0-0 draws, and that means that they're going to stay at the end of the podcast. After that little bit of music, we're going to get into the meat and drink of the rest of a bit of a topsy-turvy weekend, gentlemen, a very hard one to predict. Lachie finding it back with the full complement, the awesome foursome, which is probably not what most of you call us behind our backs, but anyway, Mark Ivkovic, Josh Parrish, Nick Debano. Mark Ivkovic has left the recording.
He hates the nickname. He just hates the nickname.
just as I've said that, if the Bergers have tried to DDoS us, they've clearly got the wrong account. Josh, I'll start with you, mate. Great to have you back. Have you recovered from the eeriness of a vacant BT Connor, population 22?
Just about. I felt like I was living in a kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland when I turned up to Genesteel Stadium. But as far as Heidelberg are concerned, I do have good news, Lachie. Every cloud has a silver lining, and their 0-0 draw with George Cross on Friday night, I'm reliably informed, has secured their status in NPL Victoria for the 2027 season.
Well, isn't that just a weight off their shoulders? Great to know. Yeah, it did seem like a 0-0 draw where they were a little bit unlucky, but we will get into that later. Nick Debano, as Mark Ivkovic tries his darndest to rejoin us, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Lachie. Another very exciting weekend of football kicking off, which we'll get to soon with that thriller on Friday night down at Jack Edwards Reserve, and then another thriller last night at the Venator Club. I've been told, to come in hot today on the podcast after Buleen's big win against Langwarrin yesterday. But Lachie, tell you what, those dulcet tones, mate, that's back-to-back songs now on the podcast. You're starting to put together a mini EP here at the moment. Are we going to have to start selling albums here?
That's not a good thing, Nick. That's not a good thing that I've had to resort to that twice. But as I said, it's not often that the Bergers are 7 games winless. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And if that gets played in the rooms, I really hope not, and inspires them to a win, then, if that's what I have to do to help the cause, then so be it.
Imagine when Ivka rolls into Avenger Park this week to commentate Avondale Heidelberg, and he's walking around the long way and he just hears, "No way, get!"
Well, Mark Ivkovic, I can't help but notice that you left almost immediately after my dulcet tones were playing out. If you don't like the musical introductions, mate, you can just tell me to my face rather than leave in protest like that.
No, I'd actually like your autograph, Lachie. I thought that was a fantastic performance. It's going to go up for a ARIA award this year.
Yeah, look, I'm just a poor man's Anthony Smolich. I know that. But anyway, I'm doing my best. I need to give the pod a bit of a lift again. Hopefully, giving Heidelberg a bit of a lift, because it was going very well for their Greek derby rivals on Friday night. Nicholas Debano, at the 16-game undefeated reign of the ladder leaders Oakleigh Cannons, vanquished at Jack Edwards Reserve. Quite the surprise in some respects. What did you make of the, result of the round?
Yeah, it was a real statement win for South Melbourne. Exactly what they needed at this stage of the season. I mean, they had been on a 3-game unbeaten run, but the results, I mean, 1-0 against Andy Thunder. It was a good win against Andy City, getting that 2-0 win on the road, a 0-0 against Preston, and then coming into this one against Oakleigh, who had just been in red-hot form for the best part of around 4 months. And, you know, I think the way that they handled that game was perfect. Bit of a change in system. Playing a bit more of a back three at times. I mean, Ivka, we saw Tom Yiannopoulos the week before sort of roaming as a number 10 in the second half. They had Polo Retro in the starting lineup, so it was going to be interesting to see how they shifted things in the middle. And they did. They had Yiannopoulos sitting back and joining both Yankovic and Ramazani as part of that back three. And Hassan Ramazani continues to be, I think, one of the signings of the season so far. He's really changed things for them defensively. He adds a lot for them going forward. You know, and I think with that shift to a back three, they actually looked more potent and strong defensively, and were able to get a lot out of the players getting forward. Jack Painter-Andrews was great, playing further up as a right wing back. Aaron Cox on the left with Jordan Lampard still missing. And Bourgeois, I think, had his best game for South Melbourne in his 3 appearances so far. He got that key flick on to David Yu, who got a deserved first goal for South Melbourne. A really, really well-taken shot to give South Melbourne the lead. And look, before that, it was quite cagey. You know, Oakleigh never really looked like threatening. Connor Hampson had one chance in that first half, but Oakleigh just couldn't get through this sort of brick wall that South Melbourne had put up. And, you know, Joe Guest was not near his best, and he got taken off around an hour. So I wonder if he is carrying something, because he just didn't look like his usual self. And I think South did well just to stay in the fight, and then they got their chance through playing a little bit more direct. Ramazani with a diag, Bourgeois with the flick on, as said David Yu with the finish. And then really from there, South were able just to kick on and got that second goal through a set piece. Yankovic able to bundle it over the line and able to hold firm under some duress late after Jacob Track got one back. I mean, it was seconds after Joe Knowles almost scored what probably would have been the best grip socks goal of the week, because that was an incredible overhead kick that was just wide of the mark. But overall, I think a really strong result from South from front to back. Strong going forward, strong defensively, considering they were without still Javi Lopez, Jordan Lampard, Max Mikler didn't play either, and a very professional performance. And I think as well the inclusion of Polo Retro in the midfield gives them a little bit more stability. He's been a very solid pickup in now. We've seen him play around about 70 minutes, and we saw about half an hour against Preston, obviously as well against Andy City. But now he looks like he's really starting to bet himself into that starting lineup alongside Seb Pasquale and create a very dynamic tandem in the middle of the park. But I think from a intangible standpoint, for what the confidence that this will give South Melbourne moving forward is massive, because they're going into this difficult run in this part of the season. They've gone through a bit of a difficult patch both on and off the field. And to get a result against a team like Oakleigh, who are going in as the benchmark in this competition right now, undefeated in 16 games, basically have one hand on the premiership right now. It's huge. And it comes back to, you know, again, sorry to break the no Sharon rule here, but it reminds me of an old adage from Lee Matthews in 2001, who famously said, well, if it bleeds, they can be beaten. And he was talking about Lachie, cover your ears, the Bombers, which famously led to Brisbane getting the first of a three-peat. So I think the confidence that would give not only South Melbourne, but show the teams around them as well that, look, this team can be beaten, and this is the formula to do it. Oakleigh, look...
Unfortunately, due to certain chemical enhancements, the Bombers later wouldn't bleed and then couldn't be beaten.
Well, I was more wound up by the fact that it doesn't matter whether it's Bulleen or Brisbane. This bloke just always finds a way to bring up Lions. What is this? What is this?
Well, look, for Oakleigh, just going back to that previous point, I think for them, look, end of the day, they had to lose one eventually. I think they would be disappointed that they didn't really put South Melbourne under enough pressure. You know, they were without Kingsley Sinclair. They still miss Jordan Hall and Alex Salmon. I think Alex Salmon is a player they really need to get back. Adam Duradovic got a nice assist for Jacob Tratt, but he hasn't scored now in a while, and I think they need something more up front through the middle. Labib continues to play well. Joe Knowles looked really sharp when he came off the bench. But I think getting Salmon back is certainly the sort of play they need for this run home, just to complement some of the other work that those players are doing. I think Duradovic has had a great season, but I think just in those big games, what we've seen from Salmon for a really long time, he's that guy that Oakleigh can lean on to get a goal as well when they need it and forge that brilliant partnership with Joe Guest up front. So I think for now, we can put it down as a mulligan for Oakleigh. But going into these next few games, they've got a very soft run, so they'll wrap up the premiership. They'll get the chance now to go into finals, with the first piece of silverware, tick, first part of the job's done. But there's also that catch-22 that after this, they're playing teams they really should beat quite easily. They don't get to, this might be a bit of a controversial take, but they don't get the battle-hardened opponents who are playing for, top six, coming up against the likes of Preston in this run home or Heidelberg. They've already played those teams maybe a bit earlier, but to have dropped points here against South Melbourne, their last proper big game before finals, that's something that would send, just a bit of a message to the rest of the competition. But we know Oakleigh are prone to a little slip up at this stage and then find form at the right time. So write them off at your own peril. I'm still prepared to just call it a mulligan, call it the loss that maybe they needed to have, and we'll see how they regroup from this as well when they get some of their key charges back for the run home.
Ivka, I want to ask you about South Melbourne. That's 4 games unbeaten now. I think they've only conceded 1 goal in that month-long stretch. Now, Hassan Ramazani hasn't been there for all of these games, and the first couple of them, particularly that 1-0 win against Thunder, was as unconvincing as any win. But it feels like it's starting to come together pretty nicely. I mean, that Adelaide game, obviously, this Thursday will be a massive test for them, and a lot will swing one way or the other, depending on whether they progress or are eliminated. But you look at their final month of games, St Albans, Melbourne City, a Heidelberg side who are bang out of form, and Caroline Springs, George Cross on the final day. They could get up to an 8-game undefeated run heading into the finals. Do they strike you as a team? I know they're only in 5th. They could get higher as a team who could be set for a very tidy finals run, where, let's not forget, you don't actually need to win that many games to win the championship.
Well, when we did our predictions at the start of the year, we said that they would just make it into the finals because of the OFC, and that's what their aim would be, is just to find a way to make the top 6. And that's what they're going to do. I'm sure they'll make the 6 in the end. And let's not forget, prior to them going away for that May period or June period, whenever it was, they were sitting top of the league. And now they've strengthened that squad as well with Ramazani, Buljawac, David Yu. I wouldn't want to be playing them in the finals. They could definitely go all the way. But anyone in that top 6, really, it's going to be probably the most interesting final series we've probably ever had. I don't think anyone's just going to scrape in. Maybe Heidelberg, the team that's going to scrape through. But they're all going to be phenomenal games, and anyone can literally beat anyone, proving with that South Melbourne win over Oakleigh. Just on Duradovic, he hasn't scored in 11 games. So he hasn't scored since he scored those 4 goals against Green Gully. That was a long time ago. And, for Oakleigh to go on an unbeaten run the way they did without their striker scoring in 11 games, that's remarkable in itself, but that's pretty poor from Duradovic. He had similar issues last season too when Salmon was injured numerous times last year and he just couldn't find the back of the net. And we spoke about whether Oakleigh needed to bring in another striker to support Salmon. And he's, been given a very good run this season. Started off the season like a house on fire, but 11 games without a goal is not good enough for a striker that's at the team that's on top of the table.
I would say, though, how many teams have a backup striker that's anywhere near the level of Alex Salmon?
Yeah, that's what we spoke about at the time when we brought it up, was who are you going to get to play second fiddle to Salmon, which is Duradovic. But still, regardless, you should be having a better scoring rate than that.
Yeah, no question. His recent form hasn't been great, but I do think the secret sauce to Oakleigh's unbeaten run is at least partially down to Kingsley Sinclair. He's Mr. Fix-It in midfield. his defensive work, his penetrative passing. I think he's hugely underrated. And the injury against Hume, you just thought, oh, that's a bitter blow. And then you compound that with Guest looking, not quite at his best. And we've seen Joe Guest have these spells where he's not physically right, and they're probably overplaying him. And then, it reaches this critical mass where he can't carry the team anymore. I don't know whether it's a 1 week thing. Hopefully it is, but they need more now from Knowles and Diaz to step up in his place, because Joe Knowles has not really had a season. He's had one game. I know he's coming back from an ACL. We need to see more of him. He needs more minutes, and he needs to get amongst the goals. Diaz, in the first month and a half, looked like one of the best players in the competition, and then has been weighed down by injury issues. Need to see him back in the team and back scoring. For South, I think Sinish has finally found an answer to Lampard being missing, going to this different system. I think it's revealed how influential he's been all through Sinish's reign, right through the championship, when he was inverting, when he was doing basically everything you could ask a fullback to do. Jordan Lampard was doing, and he scored like 3 amazing goals in the championship as well. And through this season, obviously all through the OFC Pro League has been outstanding. Missing him's a huge blow, and they don't really have a proper left back. So to go to this back three where Ramazani can play left back and a half in this at least left centre back position, and gallivant forward as he did to great effect in a lot of South Melbourne's best chances and one of their goals, is really creative thinking. And that's where Sinisha is at his best, is when there's a problem and he comes up with a new solution. He's a creative coach, and I think we saw that against Oakleigh on Friday.
Just to add as well, a question to you guys. I mean, Oakleigh going to these last 4 games of the season. Obviously, there is a break coming up for them next weekend. But should the premiership be wrapped up this weekend, or even if, it's not this week, but it's the following week, whatever else, we know that this is almost against the Chris Taylor ethos, but should they look to rest him?
I
give him a week or 2 off?
I think they absolutely, again, if they wrap it up, which they're 7 points clear at the top now, so win this weekend, assuming Hume's slide continues, which is entirely possible, they go to 10 points with, they could wrap it up this weekend, could they not?
They can, yeah.
Yeah, so, wrap it up this weekend and put him on ice for a game and a half. Like, those minutes that he missed on the weekend, I'm pretty sure in the league, were the first minutes he's not played all season. So, he's a great player. He's capable of a lot. He can, generally speaking, run games out, but he's not, he's not young. Let's face it. I think you would be, especially because Oakleigh have been so good in their finals runs in recent years, in the most part, of just sort of cruising through and doing so very comfortably, irrespective of what their form prior to that has sort of looked like. The last 2 championship wins, at least 2022, they kind of stormed through despite being shaky. I don't think they won 3 or 4 games in the final few rounds of the season. Oakleigh, 2024, they were stronger, but they just wiped the floor with pretty much everyone who came in front of them. They belted Dandy, they swept Avondale off the park, and then it was one of the worst grand finals of all time against South Melbourne, but it always felt like a game that they had largely in their control. So I think you would want to do everything in your power if you're Chris Taylor to set up the conditions for your best players to be playing their best football. And he might not like it, but I think that comes with maybe giving Joe Guest a week or 2, or maybe a game and a half on the bench. He's got to remember what that might actually feel like.
The benefit they've got as well, being so clearly in front, they get the week off in the finals too, so they've got 6 or 7 weeks until they play a finals game. So that's a lot of time for Diaz, Knowles, Salmon, Guest, all the big guns to get their bodies right for that semi-final. That's the blessing for them with the way the league's worked out. Also, a shout out to Charleston in goals for South Melbourne. I think every South Melbourne supporter thought the sky was going to fall down when Lopez suffered that injury a few weeks ago. That's 2 clean sheets and only 1 goal, a 95th minute goal from trap conceded by Charleston. that's probably the benefit of playing in the OFC Pro League for Charleston. He's got some much-needed experience, and he's come back a better goalkeeper this year than he was last year. Looks very, very comfortable in goals for South.
Just one final point before we move on. I mean, we've spoken about him a lot in the last couple of weeks, but how good of a signing has David Yu been for South Melbourne? He has been enormous since he's come in, and it's great to see he start to hit the scoreboard because from what we saw, Josh, particularly during the Melbourne circuit when he was playing for South Island United, he was one of the best players in the competition. And to see him now here at South Melbourne and thriving and giving them an extra outlet up front, along with Yuki Achida, some of those players that are buzzing in and around, whether it's Bull Juarch or Jordan Swibble up front, it just gives them that extra avenue. And he's just looked like not only creating, but now scoring. He's just looked like a real force for them. And I think he's such a massive addition going into these next few weeks, and then beyond that, with what lies ahead in the Australian Championship. So big kudos to South Melbourne for being able to bring him in. As a whole, really, all the signings they've made so far that we've seen extended minutes of, Ramazani, Retre, Juarch, now starting to get involved, and he probably actually, in the first half, was unlucky not to score as well. And David Yu starting to make a strong impact, and, we'll hopefully see more of the likes of Richard and Como in the run as well. So kudos, big ticks all around for South Melbourne and their recruitment during this mid-season window.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you never quite know how it's going to translate. I remember South playing South Island, and they couldn't really lay a glove on South Melbourne once they got going. But David Yu's individual quality was there for all to see, and clearly when he's got better players around him, you can get the best out of him in a league that's probably more physical, more competitive on a regular basis than the OFC Pro League, which is really patchy in terms of quality. Some great players and some weaker teams as well. But I think there's still a few gems that are sitting there for NPL Victoria sides to pillage and plunder, especially those championship teams in the lead up. I mean, as far as I know, Sota Higashide is still at Solomon Kings. That guy would cook in NPL Victoria. There's plenty of them, and we'll see if Alex Samuel hits the ground running at Georgie's. Not on the basis of Friday's performance, where he really should have squared it to I think it was Leo Marzi for the winning goal, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will get to that. I think they sent his cousin instead of the actual
one of the
player
Caltex they sent by mistake, did they? Yeah, potentially. But he's a good player. I think give him time. Give him time to bet him.
If he was the top goal scorer in the OFC Pro League, I think I might try and sign for Bull AFC next season.
He's a good player. Trust me. Just wait. Just give him time.
We can set up our own OFC Pro League team if we call Bulla Juarch FC. An arch rival of the Fijian team, a legendary derby, that one. Now, from a team who might have feared that the sky was falling at one point to a team where the sky may actually be falling, Hume City 2, St Albans Saints Dynamo 3, a thriller on Fox Street, and one that consigns Hume, who were not that long ago right in the hunt for the premiership race, right in the hunt for that Australian Championship slot, to 3 consecutive losses, 4 games unbeaten. Ivka, is the air? I know there's a lot of planes that fly overhead at what is it even called? Nasiol Stadium. It's had so many names that I can hardly remember. Are the air raid sirens sounding overhead? Are we hearing the? Is it panic time?
we got a delayed, but whatever happened at 2 p.m. yesterday, I think was just a delay. On Friday.
The Hume alert.
They're in a little bit of trouble, aren't they? Hitting the wrong type of form at the wrong time of the year. They weren't too bad against St Albans. I thought that was probably St Albans' best performance of the season. Really took the game to Hume. I liked the way they actually didn't fuck around too much in their backline, and when they tried to play was in the final third, which is what I want to see from St Albans. My criticism throughout the year has been of them trying to piss fight around with the ball in their backline. They've seemed to eradicate that a little bit from their game and try and play a little bit higher up the park. So when they lose the ball, it's not in a dangerous area. But, Hume just, steam's starting to slowly run out. A lot of excuses coming out of there as well. Again, I listened to Hegarty's post-match interview, again, questioning referee decisions and stuff like that. So there's, they need to get their heads switched back on and stop blaming the world, and the world's not against them. You know, they've had a great season. They need to cling on to that second spot so they get that home semi-final. You don't want to have all that hard work that you've put into this season. Yes, you're not going to make the championship now, but you know, second spot is very important in this final series, especially their home record's been exceptional this season. So they need to get their head switched back on and try to hold on to second spot. They've got a tough run home. Melbourne City, Heidelberg away, which that's still a tough game. Georgie's and then Avondale away on that final day. That final game of the season against Avondale could be for second spot with the way it's playing out at the moment.
I mean, are you sure there's not a little bit of unfortunate bad juju down at Nassiolf Stadium, Ivka? Because I seem to recall a certain Victorian Premier was there 3 weeks ago, and guess what? They're not Premier anymore. So maybe it is a bit of a poison stadium at the present moment.
Possibly. It's all been downhill since then. But credit to St Albans. Great, like I said, great performance. They obviously enjoy playing against Hume. A lot of ex-Hume players there. To score 3 goals as well is a fair return, albeit one of them being an own goal. And can't forget to mention Englehart's equaliser in that first half. What a hit that was. Again, Michael Bullich, the biggest sook in the world, claiming that the ball didn't go over the line and hit the post and come back out. It's hit the inside of the bloody goal and come back in.
No, not a bad effort from the man who used to play in Armenia. Hey, Ivka.
Piss off, idiot.
Well, Lachie, I mean, there's a... There's a rumour doing the rounds, Lachie, that there's set to be an announcement this week, a royal commission into Hume's big rebuild in the off-season. There's allegations of corruption, so we're going to get to the bottom of this, but it remains to be seen whether there was something untoward about their off-season recruitment. No, Hume, look, I think they're kind of flailing at the moment, trying to recapture what happened early in the season, but you do have to reinvent yourself over the course of the year. Teams aren't going to figure you out. They've got the scouting report on Hume now, which is lightning fast counterattacks. And if you kind of let Hume have the ball and let them take the initiative in the game, and then you counterattack them, it can be a lot more effective.
Yeah, we saw examples of that against Preston when we did that game, Josh, but also... Can't forget to mention Aaron Calver now departing to Auckland. That's a massive loss for them. He was so good for that defence, really held it together. Chris Oldfield returned to goals, probably not his greatest performance, hasn't played in a couple of months, but much needed game time for him. But it's going to be hard to replace Calver. You'd say Taylor Shrivers would probably take that spot in the starting lineup, which is better than him playing as a fullback. I think that experiment hasn't worked for them.
Just on St Albans, guys, I think, obviously now that result, it's all but locked them in.
Are you sharing the theory that you were sharing with us off air?
Yeah, I have a theory. Before we get to it, I think as a whole, just looking at even their previous years in the top flight, they're on track to have their best season in the NPL era in the top flight as well. So I think ticks for them. Again, with the results that they've gotten this year, they've really played Kingmaker over the last 4 weeks, haven't they? I mean, draw against Oakleigh. They've beaten Hume twice this season. They got a draw against Avondale. They got South Melbourne this weekend, so have another big chance to sort of just muck up the finals race. And they've beaten and drawn with Heidelberg this season as well. So really, all around, I think they've actually had quite a strong season to stay in the mix. But being in the mix might be just a little bit of an undersell because there's still a chance. If you do the maths, if you're of St Albans persuasion, this is for you. They win this weekend against South Melbourne. They go into... The gap could be as low as 4 points, depending on what happens with Heidelberg's game against Avondale, but they'll at least be 5 points behind South Melbourne. And their run home in their last 3 games is, I believe, against the bottom 3 sides. So Bentley, Green Gully, Dandy Thunder, who at least two of those sides by the time that they play them could be relegated at that stage. So there's every chance St Albans could win at least 3 of their last 4. Now, if they can get a result against South Melbourne and get a win, there's a chance. There is a chance, just given how Heidelberg are dropping points. And I mean, Lachie was singing before, are we ever going to see them win a game again? I mean, if they don't this year, then suddenly, you know, that's joy to the ears for St Albans, that maybe they could be able to re-enter the fray and maybe create a little bit of havoc in the final few rounds. But if they lose this weekend, then, well, it's basically over. But we like to keep things interesting. We like to see a little bit of excitement these last few weeks. So I think if they can get a result against South Melbourne, I think they can start to believe.
If St Albans
Nick, just for balance, here's what I think of that theory.
If St Albans make the top 6, I will buy a platinum Dinamo membership for 2027.
Jokes on the rest of us. He was planning on doing that anyway.
There you go. Clip it up. Clip it up. There it is.
I want to see, when I watch my streams on a Sunday afternoon or on a Friday night at Fox Street, I want to see your little head poking out of the executive box on the other side, the Brick House Club room. I want to see you in there.
Look, the chances of it happening are so minute. But
no, Ivka's going to be standing on the hill
chance.
with the boom box, but he's going to have bottle service on the far side.
I think
Just
I
be
won't
careful.
be buying a membership. That's the chances of them making the top 6.
No fun.
We'll revisit it in a few weeks. It could be over by the time Sunday's over. And you know, look, to be fair, South Melbourne are playing Thursday night against Adelaide United in the Cup. You know, depending on what happens there might be some tired bodies. So they've been the spoiler. They've been the great spoiler for everyone so far this season. Why couldn't they just spoil this whole top 6 race and make a little bit of a late run?
Well, if you were listening to Suited and Booted this week, you will know that Mark Ivkovic is no stranger to ending up with egg on his face after an outlandish prediction. But who am I in my nice Sydney glass house to be throwing my stones? Anything else on this, gentleman, before we move on to the next game? Right on then to another 3-2 thriller. Oh, Melbourne City. Oh, Melbourne City. You poor. I don't take any joy in. Well, actually, that's a lie. I do, because I got a correct score, correct result tip from Avondale 3, Melbourne City 2, which in our tipping economy this week, I won't say what the top score was, but was a very, very valuable outcome. But that's about as much joy as I'll be taking in the disappointment of children, because this was an extremely youthful side with Melbourne City's, I guess, also youth team, under-21 team, effectively, Nick, playing in the Australia Cup. They raced out to a 2-0 lead with, a very weakened team, and they just could not hold on. Avondale found a way to come up with a big 3 points.
Yeah, and I mean, look, City started strongly, but Avondale as well missed some great chances in the first half. I mean, George Ott had a penalty saved. Avondale were knocking on the door. But City took their chances brilliantly in the first half, and they had themselves 2 to the good. But look, credit to Avondale with how they responded at half-time, because we've spoken about on this podcast about their recent form going into this game. They had to win this game desperately to keep themselves in the mix for the top 2, and also just to keep themselves away from the sides that are battling to try and get into the finals. There's all the added wrinkles of home eliminations, whatever it might be, but they needed this also to get their confidence up going into the latter stage of this season, because we've spoken about ad nauseum on this podcast, they haven't had the big scalp. Their biggest scalp so far has been beating Melbourne City, and, you know, they did that earlier this season, and then were able to do that again in the second half, and were able to close that one out even without their top scorer, Bruno Fornaroli, who is out suspended. Really nice goal from Emlyn Wellsmore coming off the bench and scoring that goal. He's had a tough little run, so good to see him making the most of his opportunity there and scoring a nice goal, and just a reminder of just how talented he is when he's up and going and playing at his best. George Ott putting the penalty miss to the side and getting that all-important equaliser, and then Trycheski with the winner. So I think for Avondale, that is just seismic result for them, given South Melbourne starting to hit form and Preston, and both of them are closing quickly, and given that now the gap between them and Hume City has dropped to only 2 points. And Ivka, you spoke about that game on the final day. They've given themselves, in a year where we haven't really been able to get, I guess, an understanding of this Avondale team, like, where they really sit, that they could still find themselves finishing in the top 2 and getting that all-important week off. So, big result from them, going on the road against, yes, a much weakened Melbourne City team. I think credit to City for staying as competitive as they were and being able to hit out to that 2-0 lead with all those players that were called up to play in the Australia Cup on Sunday in Newcastle. But that's going to be a watch for Melbourne City in the next few weeks. We've spoken about it all year. When is it going to come? When is it going to come? If it is at all. And now with back-to-back defeats, they've got that game in hand still against Preston to come. But the further they go in the Australia Cup as well, it means that more of those guys are probably going to be unavailable for the NPL. So we'll see what happens this weekend, given that I don't believe their round of 16 game is for a couple of weeks. So maybe a few of them might be available this weekend when they play against Hume City. But if they haven't got the full complements of, your Roland Ballas, your Keem Geralds, even some of those players who were there at the start of the season dropping down for the latter bit of the year, and your Lawrence Wongs and your Medis, it's going to be a tough little run for them. But, I think overall, regardless of what happens from here, the fact that they've been able to be competitive and stay in the finals mix all season long, it's a big A+ season from them, and being the first of the A-League Academy teams to make it successive seasons in the top flight of Victorian football. So, regardless, I think it's been a really solid year from them.
Well, Nick, sorry, I'm going to have to hold you up there. We don't know that this team is safe from relegation
Apologies.
Until it has been confirmed on the Football Victoria Instagram, there is no way of being definitively sure of a team's relegation safety in NPL Victoria. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit, but it has otherwise on the whole been.
I've put the moz on them, haven't I? I've put the moz on them now. Bentley are licking their lips.
You know what would be super funny is if FE just decided to just go wild card bitches and just put a gully safe welcome to 2027 graphic up or something like that. Just to throw it out there. To see if that really does influence things. But yeah, look, they're going to be fine. I think that's pretty clear, and there are extenuating circumstances. Now, those round of 16 games, I believe, are the 8th to the 12th of August, so it could be a weekend game. It won't be this weekend. You maybe wonder if Melbourne City would be pushing, perhaps, to have that game played midweek and free people up, but they'll still probably take it pretty cautiously. You'd have to imagine, though, Ivka, with a couple of tough games coming up. Yes, they've got a game in hand on the rest of the finals chasing pack, and they are only 4 points away from Heidelberg, who are not exactly, putting up a giant moat and making it impossible to get into their fortress, to the top 6 fortress. But you have to imagine that you're just about putting the line through Melbourne City for a finals berth at this point.
Yeah, if they're not going to get players back, I don't think the team that rolled out on the weekend's got enough to get enough points in the final 4 games. Especially, you look at that Wellsmore goal. Any chance one of those 7 defenders that were standing around watching him walk through and take a shot, want to put a challenge in, that would have been helpful to prevent that. On Avondale, I don't know why they're persisting with Lundy at right back over Wellsmore. Wellsmore is 100 times better player than Lundy. Lundy made the error for the first goal that Melbourne City scored. So I've got no idea why they're persisting with him. Lundy, yes.
Every time I see Lundy on an NPL pitch, I think of that Ian Wright meme. Is he still playing? Oh.
Think of those Jordan Henderson memes.
Because don't get me wrong, he was amazing, but he's
that's
not
what I was
that
going to say. He wasn't.
Jonathan Camano still makes his right backs the old-fashioned way.
That's what I was going to say, Josh. Lundy was a great fullback 5 years ago, but he's slipped down the state leagues over the last couple of years and then miraculously found his way back at Avondale. Barely played a game until a couple of weeks ago. He's been poor every time he's played. I think this level's past him a little bit. And you've got a player like Wellsmore sitting on the bench. No shit, their fortunes turned at halftime when he came on. He's miles ahead of Lundy. So maybe after another error they might revert back to Lundy. But good performance in the end, in the second half for Avondale to to claw their way back and get a very, very important 3 points, because it would have been a disaster had they dropped points in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the starting lineup that Avondale put out for this game, it was like the stall gift. They were trying to give themselves a handicap against these FM regens that they were playing against. Max Green and Wellsmore come on at halftime, and suddenly they look a better team. Like, no wonder. No, I don't give them a huge amount of credit, to be honest. Like, you're playing against the weakest City team, close to anyway, that they've put out all season, and you made bloody hard work of it. I don't think this bolsters their title credentials whatsoever. It's an important win, don't get me wrong, but I didn't think either side emerged with a tremendous amount of credit from this game. Even City, who, you know, having got to an unthinkable 2-goal lead, you know, just absolutely failed to manage the game. That speaks to their inexperience. But all you have to do, if you're looking for how bad a Melbourne City or an A-League Academy side is, you just have to look at the shirt numbers, and when they're rolling out with 40s, 50s, and 60s, you know that it's probably not the A team.
I think that just goes to show the way that club's set up, though, because again, you know, you watch that team play, same principles, same style of play. It didn't matter if it was number 60 or number 10. It's still the same philosophy that they go with. So it's given them rewards this season. You know, even if they fall off and they finish 9th or 10th even, it's still a remarkable achievement this season that they've put together.
Yeah, the program is really strong, but without, you know, the cutting edge of those guys who, you know, chose the bear instead of playing against the men. Unfortunately, they just don't have, you know, a side that's battle hardened enough to grind out the 3 points when they're in that position.
I would say they were let down by schoolboy defending, but it was literally schoolboy defending.
Yeah, they were wearing backpacks, which was a dead giveaway.
Almost, I'm surprised you could make out the numbers, Josh, with all the satchels covering your vision. Yeah, we'll make for a very disappointing what I got up to on the weekend report on Monday morning prayers at year 10. Anyway,
I heard that Bruno Fornaroli not playing on the weekend wasn't actually a result of his red card. It's actually against the Football Victoria bylaws to play against kids that could be your grandchildren.
Are we ever going to see them win again? Heidelberg United 0. Caroline Springs George Cross 0. We are at the point where Heidelberg have now, obviously we reached this point before because they didn't lose, but they have lost as many games this year in the league as they have under 2 entire full seasons under John Anastasiadis. 13 games without a win across the whole season. Now 7 of those coming consecutively. I think they will win again, Ivka, and I hope the song's taken in the jovial, you know, jester spirit in which it's intended. But when will they win again? And should they have won again on the weekend against Georgies?
No, neither team deserved to win. That was the shittest game of all time in the NPL. I'm serious. That was shit from both teams.
This is a man who watched Oakleigh 1, Heidelberg 0.
Hey, that game was the game of the year compared to that what I watched on Friday night. My God. I think it was more reflective in George Cross made the game like that. I think they were happy for a point. It was about the 15-minute mark in the game, and I said on commentary, it's like George Cross is 1-0 up in the 90th minute. That's how they're playing this game. Just hoofing it log, didn't care about retaining the ball at all, not looking up, just kick it back to the keeper, Bonsall, and Heidelberg would start again. Credit to George Cross because they defended well. Heidelberg barely created anything, probably one good chance for Yokokawa across into the box and a free header that he should have put away. But my God, the level of quality in that game was so poor from both sides, this is what's concerning about Heidelberg. Yes, they're tired. It's evident, but is tiredness an excuse for 5-metre passes that they can't complete? The turnovers, decision-making, really, really poor from Heidelberg. They're definitely in a funk, that's for sure. And Georgie's, I'm saying it now, give Eric Vasiliadis the Coach of the Year award, because for him to have that team sitting 7th is a miracle. I have no idea how they've amassed 31 points in this competition. Literally have nothing going forward. Leo Marzi works his balls off. Besides that, even with Hassan Jallo, I felt sorry for him because the service was really poor to him. And we mentioned Samuel before. My God, that's probably the worst debut I've seen in NPL Victoria as well. Like I said, I think his cousins come across from Vanuatu, because that definitely wasn't him. It looked like he never played football before. He looked lost out on that pitch. Didn't know where he was. I was watching him off the ball. He looked shit scared to be on there. Obviously, limited training sessions, because I think he only came into Melbourne last week. But, really shocking game. They could have blown that full-time whistle from the start of the game and would have saved everyone some time.
So should we just all take the gun and shoot ourselves now, fellas, or is there any positivity to be found in this game? I do just want to say, it is quite a big. I'm with you on the coach of the year thing, Ivka. I'm very happy.
I'm being serious. That's not a smart-ass thing.
No. And I'm not being a smart-ass either. I'm completely with you. Like, you look at the back four that took the field on the weekend and has been the core back four for most of the year. That is a back four comprised of players who I think are good players, but the barefaced reality. The two centre backs have both been part of teams that have been relegated from NPL Victoria. The goalkeeper has been relegated from NPL Victoria, and the fullbacks, to the best of my knowledge, prior to this year, never played top flight football, because Benadou was at Northcote before this and was playing.
I don't
VPL.
mind Benadou, by the way.
That's not a criticism, but to take a defence that has that history, unexperienced players or players who have had very negative experiences, and craft that into a team that's kept, 8? I think this was their 8th clean sheet of the season. That really is that you got to be doing something. I know you are critical of the way that they do it, Ivka, but you can't help, fellas, appreciating the fact that they are doing it.
Look, 10 draws this season as well, which is incredible. And 5 losses for the entire year. That's the second best in the league, along with Preston. That is insane to think about. And I think we all thought going into this year that they would be the complete opposite of this. They would be the entertainers, the fun team out in the West. But they've come and been the armoured tortoise, and they've made life hard for everybody. So, look, as you said, Ivka, I think Eric Vasiliadis, rightfully so, deserves to be right in the mix for Coach of the Year. Especially, look, they're not out of it for finals too.
Well, look, I think he's recognised that they probably don't have the quality to go and play and whatever, try and take it to a team. At home, they do at times in periods of games when they can smell that blood and go for it a little bit. But I think he set them up to be hard to beat, which is proven with those results. 10 draws. It's difficult to break them down. It's worked for him, so why would you change it? Tsitsides is an absolute beast of a defender. He's a lunatic, that bloke. Just the way he goes in for challenges. He takes big risks, but most of the time it pays off for him. There's times Heidelberg's playing out from a goal kick, and he's the one that's pressing the fullback. I was pissing myself laughing, look at this bloke go. You're the centre back, and he's pushed up that high from a goal kick. Look, if you want one positive...
It's good thing they kept him, Ivka, because there was someone on this podcast who said he was gone at the start of the season.
If you want one positive out of the game, I'll give you one positive. Kane Razmovsky is an absolute beast of a fullback. He was the shining light in that game. I gave him man of the match. I thought he was superb for Heidelberg at fullback. Really just solid defender, very good understanding of the game. He's been a good addition to Heidelberg. Concern for Heidelberg, though, Ben Collins was listed to start the game, but had an injury in the warm-up and he dropped out of the squad completely. So that's another injury blow to them.
Thea Harris, Ivka, what's your early read on his performances? Because to me, he looks like a good player, that it's a terrible fit for the ethos of the team. He seems like he's sort of on an island. That may change, of course, when he gets more minutes. And then mid-season window is always hard.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what did he have injuries before he came to Heidelberg? Is that why his professional career halted? I'm not sure.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure that he was seeing a lot of football by the
He looks
end.
very rusty, unfit. You can obviously we've seen what he can do at a professional level, but sometimes these professionals that drop down into the NPL, especially former young guns that had high hopes, and they drop down back into the NPL, it just doesn't suit him, and it's not suiting him at the moment. You thought on paper when he signed, that's what Heidelberg needed. They're lacking out wide. They, Chuck Dow, Lee, Jay McGowan, Bassetto this season. They all haven't hit their straps. So on paper, it looked like a good signing, but he's way off the mark at the moment.
A bit of a two-part question for you guys. Maybe I'll start with Josh. It feels weird that we're having this discussion about, okay, you're probably putting a line through Melbourne City. Well, surely Georgies aren't going to make finals. But at the same time...
I keep saying that, Lachie, and it keeps biting me in the ass.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was the other thing I was going to suggest before, is that, Ivka, if you're buying a platinum membership for St Albans...
You took the words out of my mouth. Georgies make the finals. I'll buy a platinum membership.
I want to see a banquet table...
Oh, sorry. It was Nick that I couldn't hear.
Yeah, no.
I was
I
going to say
was waiting.
Imagine they both get in.
I'll be $2,000 down.
Both get in. Imagine South and Heidelberg just these last few rounds just completely lose their way, and then Georgies and Dinamo both get in.
Ivka, you'll have to be hoping that not only Melville Bodyworks are around to partner with us next season, but that they get a few referrals from the podcast if that's the case. I would love nothing more than to see a long banquet table at Georgie's on Vista in Fraser Rise, and just Ivka at the head of the table with a massive feast that he's had to pay for out of pocket himself. That would be fan bloody tastic. But just
tell us how the rabbit stew is, Ivka, at the sponsors function.
It feels weird to say that these teams can't catch Heidelberg, but it's a 3-point gap, and Heidelberg. I guess the first part of the question is, have they got the wherewithal, the quality within this squad to shake all of this off? It's a monumental game this Friday coming up against Avondale. But the second part of the question is, with the signings that they've made especially, does this feel like a team who, whether they make the finals or not, are already kind of building for next season? I'm not saying they've given up on this year and they've put the queue in the rack completely, but do they have the vibe of a team who maybe are thinking about next year already, just with the slow, transition we've seen, a player changeover in key positions recently?
I think the Abani and Razmovsky signings definitely speak to that. The Mudakudis and Theoharis signings scream win now. So I think there is definitely, look, they were probably hoping to have both Mudakudis and Theoharis back next season, and Theoharis gets a full preseason, and they can maybe get him back to his best. But I don't know, Lachie. They're so strange to get a read on at the moment, because for so long, even during this, we were just wondering it's going to have to turn eventually. They're going to have to start winning games, and they're going to have to start really getting back to the Heidelberg that we know. Because even 2 years ago, when Johnny A first took over, you can argue this squad on paper is probably more talented, you'd say, from front to back, as compared to what they had in 2024, but they were still getting results and winning a lot of games. And right now, though, they look blunt. They look like a blunt instrument going forward. Start of the year, they were actually creating a lot of chances, but they couldn't finish. Now they just feel like they look devoid of confidence. They look slow. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating few weeks beyond what comes from where their season ends, whether it's in the next month or whether it's they get a final and they're able to find a second wind. But whatever comes out of this, and then how they rebound or look to rebound going into 2027 is going to be a very, very intriguing watch.
I'll give him this week before I put a line through him. The game
If you
against
put a line through them, you'll put a line through the top 6 for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
No,
Who's
they
going to
could-
make? Someone's got to make the finals, Ivka.
in terms of them able to win the championship, I curious to see how they go against Avondale, because that's a team that's going to open up and there's going to be space for them to play. So curious to see how they go in that one. If they lose on Saturday to Avondale, I would rule out their chances of going all the way.
So you'll put a line through 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. But what about Altona in 10th, who can still mathematically make it? Are you putting a line through their finals chances, Ivka? Is that who you're hedging your bets on to get to 6th?
Altona continually proves the doubters wrong. They're more informed than everyone else, aren't they?
Not everyone is a doubter. I mean, they're literally called magic. Who are we to doubt their abilities? It's an utterly fascinating game coming up for Heidelberg. The bad news for them as well is that despite the fact that they, have been reeling, or at least it feels like they've been reeling from this long flow-on effect of the magnitude of last season, and that's going to cost them additional games this year in terms of not qualifying for the championship. They're not going to get a break because they've made the Doherty Cup final, and presumably the Doherty Cup final's not getting moved from the 8th, which means they're going to play midweek after that game against Preston, and then go into round 24 on the Friday night. Now that could maybe be moved against a Hume City side who could be fighting at that point to keep their top 2 spots. So. Yeah, it's a really, really fascinating end to the season for Heidelberg. Definitely a watching brief on them. A watching brief was bloody tricky at BT Connor Reserve on Friday night. Josh, you were one of the few people actually allowed into the ground as Preston secured a grinding 1-0 win against Bentley Greens. Do we want to talk about the game first, or do we want to talk about the other matters first?
Well, Big Brother was watching on my way in. I got my passport stamped and my credentials looked over. No, it wasn't quite that stringent. But, Ghost Town heading into Genesteel Stadium. This is, would you believe, not including COVID, my 3rd behind closed doors Preston game that I've commentated after Oakleigh last season and Brunswick City the year before that. So, it's a familiar, eerie feeling, I suppose. But a strange one nonetheless. My biggest disappointment was they didn't even have one canteen window open. So I'd, just hedge my bets on maybe having a kebapi roll before the game, but there weren't even enough sort of officials and injured players around to justify opening up the canteen pre-game. And they didn't even have kebapi on the post-game feed. It was pizza and pasta that was chucked in.
Lucky I wasn't down there. I would have been spewing.
Well,
Absolutely.
It sounds like you were angry enough on Friday, mate.
But as for the game itself, I mean, Preston, by far the better team for 75 minutes, made it hard for themselves, to be honest. Like, they were completely dominant in the first half. Zach Lisaleski gets his first goal for the club. He had a sighter against Newcastle, almost scored the goal of the season, and then come this game, Andrew Withers makes a rushed clearance, drops to him, but he still has so much to do, even with the keeper out of position, to take 2 touches, set it for himself, and half volley it from all of 25 yards, even with the keeper scrambling to get back to his near post. But, an outstanding goal. And then Preston really should have torn him up from there. They played some sensational football at times in the first half, and there was this ludicrous moment where Sion Cuba does a series of step-overs and then a no-look pass to set Stefan Zinni through. All the Bentley defenders are convinced that he's offside. Leighton Brooks thought he was offside as well, judging by the casual attempt at which he finished that 6-yard box chance and went straight at the goalkeeper, and then looked across to the lino and almost fell to his knees, realizing that it actually would have counted. But maybe without the crowd in the ground, he didn't quite have the pressure on him to lock in for that opportunity. But yeah, Preston couldn't finish their dinner, and Bentley, came to life in the last 15 minutes or so, trying to chase the game. Last 10 minutes in particular, they looked a lot better, and it was down to Ryan Scott to make a heroic save from Marky Petratos, the player you'd want in that position. He's only 6 yards out. Yes, it's on a slight angle with the ball bouncing, but Scott comes out like Peter Schmeichel and makes himself huge. And, I gave him 2 votes because I just thought that save alone was worthy of the 3 points. So Preston, maybe it was more difficult than it should have been, but still a convincing performance after, it's their 3rd game in 6 days. Without the home crowd, the 12th man behind them, I think they'd be very happy with the performance, if not the manner of victory, which was more complicated than it perhaps should have been.
It was eerily similar to the reverse fixture. Dominated Bentley in that game, and then they actually conceded a late equaliser in that one. Petratos really should have scored that chance right at the end. Yes, great save by Scott, but still inside the 6-yard box. But you could see that last 15 minutes, Preston were just fatigued. They had that emotional game against Newcastle a couple of days before that. It was always going to happen. Probably needed another goal or 2 to kill that game off. But again, important 3 points. We're used to seeing them win 1-0 this season. I don't think Bentley really troubled them too much in that game. Just on Brooks, he's a player really down on the confidence, isn't he? That miss is a player that's just got no confidence at all.
I genuinely think he thought the whistle had already gone. Genuinely wouldn't put it down to confidence. I would put it down to a lack of concentration.
I think word had reached him that the kebapi stand was closed. That's enough to make anyone fall for that.
He fell on his knees quite literally in the middle of BT Connor Reserve.
He realised he'd eaten pasta the night before. Oh no!
Pasta after the game. Oh.
You can't use that as an excuse, Josh.
It's not an excuse. I'm just saying it's not confidence. It's just, he thought he was offside and he didn't give it the full gusto that it desered.
No, but more in terms of his performances throughout the season.
Yeah.
He's just last season.
I would say he did get that assist for the winner for Lazarevsky against Newcastle. So that was a great moment. But unfortunately, Preston's wingers have been in this bizarre cycle where it's like, those 2 were poor last week. Let's start the other 2. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, those 2 were poor, but the 2 that came off the bench gave them a real lift, and let's flip it around. And it just keeps going round and round and round.
It's been the same story all season with that front 4, really. Just haven't, no one's really, besides obviously Bernardo coming in, has really grasped that opportunity.
Not consistently. Everyone's had a performance here and there. And no one's consistent. I mean, I think Zinni's been pretty good. He's missed a chunk of the season with injury, but in terms of just like minutes per goal and everything, he's actually been better than I thought he was going to be. I thought, maybe we were seeing the tail end of Stefan Zinni's NPL career, but not so. I think he's probably been the most consistent of the bunch. I mean, Cianci started the season like a Ferrari, and now it's more of a Volkswagen Beetle at this point.
Mazda 2.
No. The Ferrari's just in the pit stops at the moment, Josh.
He's
getting ready for the finals. Yep. Changing tyres, getting ready for the final few weeks of the season. Don't you worry, mate.
And the less said about John Albano's season, probably the better. I mean, he got the winner against North Sunshine. He's had a couple of moments here and there, but has not been consistent at all. So Preston can't find consistent output in the final third. Having said that, completely dominated this game. They had Bentley in the palm of their hand and they just couldn't find a second goal. They were actually playing with a lot of confidence in the first half. They were bouncing quick first time passes. They were moving the ball quickly. Lachie looked really good as the left back and gave him a lot of width with that natural left foot of his. Even though he's probably going to be a centre-back long-term, it's a good option for them in the short term. Bryce looked fantastic. Tavia looked like he was completely wound up about not being able to play midweek and was turning it on. So, it was just that the nerves started to creep in when they hit that sort of 75-minute mark and they didn't have a second goal. It was like, are we going to fuck this up?
What did you think of Bentley under Piddick? Obviously, it's different. Watching from that media tower at Preston, you get a good vantage point of their shape. Did you see an improvement in them?
Yeah, definitely. There's no question that they're a much, much better team since he's come in. I just think it's a little bit too little too late. I think they had to make the call earlier. I mean, they're playing the 3-5-2 at the moment. They moved kind of to a it was a good substitution from Piddick, actually, bringing in Yuto Kokuro for, I think it was, Ben Jeeba came off, and they moved Kamara to a right back and moved to a 4 and played like a box midfield. It was like a 4-2-2, I guess you'd call it. And Kokuro was really giving Preston some trouble. They started, instead of in the kind of 3-4-3, they play getting outnumbered in the middle of the park. They were actually outnumbering Preston. So he's a smart coach. Like, he's even able to change his, preferred shape and do things differently in games. And they could have pinched a point. They really could have. They hung in there, and that's as much as I can say about Bentley in the season that they've had. If they're hanging in there, not collapsing in games, it's an improvement.
Positive note for Preston, Josh. Extra positive. George Mihalides got through the under-23s, I believe. Looks like he got some minutes in the belt, so nice, handy inclusion. I mean, the selection dilemma right now for Zoran Markovski would be something already, but now adding in a guy who was probably one of their best players in the first half of the season now available for the run home.
Yeah, and there's huge competition for places in midfield now with Ian Romero and Suto, and these guys not necessarily getting the starting lineup. I think the Cuba, Tavia, and Kubalay is going to be the first choice 3. That would certainly be mine, but having these guys coming off the bench or compete for a starting spot is going to lift the side. They didn't have midfield balance until the window, and they've changed that significantly. And Mialides was fantastic for them early doors, and if he can get match fit, quick sharp, he could play a major role.
Oh, there was other big news out of BT Connor, of course, in the last week. Is slightly surprising news. In some respects, not surprising. In other respects, it came from the Preston Boys in the aftermath of the big show a couple of weeks ago, who actually announced that in consultation with the club that they'd be standing down. No more group activity. The social media accounts are going to be wiped, basically to do the right thing by the club. Ivka, what did you kind of make of the announcement? Were you surprised? I don't know. It was certainly an eyebrow-raising statement from Preston's supporter groups in the wake of what's happened.
I think that opening line in their statement of the club comes before anyone else is the right thing. They've obviously realised what they've done has caused severe damage to the club's reputation, accepted that responsibility, and have disbanded because, they've done enough damage to the club in the past 2 years. So probably the right call. And it's probably a relief for Preston that, that they've done that on their, probably not their own idea. I'm sure Preston, the club, probably pushed them into that direction as well. But I believe, those names have been brought forward to Football Victoria in the investigations as well, the individuals from that incident. So I probably agree with that decision for them to disband, because they've proven nothing but trouble over the last couple of years for Preston itself.
And I say surprising not in the sense that it's surprising that some sort of consequence would come of the action, more the sense that this was a supporter group who were sort of not in open revolt, but definitely in opposition to the club at previous points in this season, right? Like, they sort of walked away because of the disagreements they were having with the club hierarchy. Now here they are agreeing to do the best thing by the club and by Victorian football more broadly. And I think, however that fence has been able to be mended to get to this point that serves the best interests of everyone is a good thing. Ultimately, I guess the only regret is that we didn't get to this point before tangible consequences actually had to occur. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in that raucous Preston grandstand over the remaining weeks and months of the season.
I dare say there would have been a lot of individuals, even in that Preston Boys group, that probably had enough of the bullshit that's come out of it too. There is, some older guys in that group that are actually switched on people. They probably thought, well, fuck this, I still want to support my club and just go there as a normal supporter instead of being under the banner of Preston Boys.
And I think a lot of people wouldn't make this distinction because they just wouldn't know, but there's other supporter groups as well. Preston Macedonia Ultras, for example, was formed when the club was on its knees, and they were selling, their own merch with their own insignia. But at the time, Preston were in the state leagues, and every cent of profit was going back to the club to try and save it. So, that group's been around for a lot longer, or has at least been a lot more prominent since I've been following Preston. Preston Boys, to me, seem like a more recent phenomenon that sprung up around the club's rise, maybe 2024 range, when they kind of rose to prominence and were bringing, I guess, a more raucous element to some of the bigger fixtures. But clearly it went overboard. Clearly there's been problems, and clearly this is the right call to pack it in when, the club's really under the pump from all angles, be it, Football Victoria or politicians or media. Like, there's a storm around them now, and I think finally they've seen the light. So well done to the people behind the scenes who've worked for this outcome. I don't think it would have come easy, but we'll see whether this factors into the decision making of the governing body when it comes to sanctions.
Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on. I mean, another team who has felt the effects of this sort of stuff this season, Dandy City. Nick, it should have been a win. It should have been 3 points. The stoppage time penalty, no good, and all of a sudden, it's looking a little bit nervy. I mean, Bentley and Dandenong Thunder are not exactly hunting them down. Bentley, or Dandenong Thunder especially, but it's a 4-point gap with 4 games to go between Dandenong City Heidelberg and the relegation zone.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities, they had 2 bites of the cherry. Pierce Waring, namely, missing that great opportunity to open the scoring, and then seconds later getting another chance from the penalty spot and not putting it away. It was given to them on a silver platter to really try and kick away and, wrap this up and put themselves in a position where they're 6 points clear. There's 4 games to go. They're basically home if they got that done. But now they only kick 4 points clear, and they've just kept the door ajar for Bentley. Now, Bentley, look, they have an extremely hard run home. And, playing Oakleigh, St Albans, Melbourne City, Heidelberg. I mean, you could talk yourself into a few of those games, to be honest. So now might be retracting extremely hard to just difficult, tough games for different reasons. So Dandy City really missed a beat not being able to get that result, because it just would have been huge for them. Weight off the shoulders, 6 points clear. We're basically home. We can basically wrap it up by winning the Dandy Derby. Now they go into a game against Thunder, who are also equally as desperate. And as we know in Dandy Derbies, bar the elimination final last year, Thunder have owned this fixture, and we know this is a very different Dandy Thunder team to Thunder teams of previous years. But it's no guarantee for them that they're just going to come out and get the result, because Thunder have still been quite competitive during this stretch. They got a win against Bentley. They pushed South Melbourne and made things really hard for them. And even against Altona had to really dig deep in the second half and get that 2-0 win. So, yeah, a big missed opportunity. But you win that, you basically relegate 2 teams for the price of one. You win one game, you basically relegate both Gully and Thunder. So it's going to be a fascinating watch this weekend. But, yeah, just really making life hard for themselves, because a few weeks ago, after they got those wins against Avondale and Heidelberg, we were thinking, oh, geez, could they maybe now start to get themselves in amongst where Georgies are and City, despite this point deduction and everything? But these last 4 weeks, things have really just fallen off a little bit of a cliff. Look, the draw against Hume was good, but then the losses against Bentley and South Melbourne, particularly the loss against Bentley, has just dragged them right back in. So only 1 point out of a possible 6 against teams that are below them on the ladder. So tough little run for them coming up. They just have to handle business this Saturday.
Well, the opposite end of the table, well, not the actual table, but the opposite end of the spectrum, I guess, is Altona, who have strung together 3 consecutive very important games, albeit two wins out of 3 in games that they should have won, as they did against Dandenong Thunder this weekend. Ivka, it's a 7-point gap between them and the relegation places now. With 4 games to go, they are getting quite close to being marked as safe. Remember there's like when there was a natural disaster of people on Facebook with like X person marked themselves as safe in this particular... That's what the safe posts remind me of. Altona are getting very close to being marked safe from 2026 relegation.
I think they're pretty much done. I would say usually it's 25 points that keeps you up. So, they've surpassed that target. What is it? Bentley 19. I can't see Bentley getting enough wins to surpass Altona. Altona's got George Cross at home this week. Probably a win there absolutely guarantees it. Then they've got Dandenong City away, which could end up being a huge game in itself, depending on the way results go this weekend. But the Magic have done it again. For me, they're safe. They've done what it's taken yet again. They find a way to just keep their shit together, fly under the radar sort of, and not fall apart like all, Grand Gully, Thunder and Bentley have done. And that's with all the dramas they had with Loza getting suspended for the remainder of the season a long time ago.
Altona are officially, and I mentioned this yesterday in one of the group conversations I'm in, but they are officially the Wigan Athletic of their Premier League era. They always find a way to stay up. Unfortunately for you, Altona, I really hope it doesn't end with you winning the Doherty Cup and then getting relegated in the same week, because we really hope it doesn't end like that. But Lachie, you talk about them being safe. They're Ivka's tipped for 6th. They're still alive, mate. They're going to be going on a run now. You look at those next few weeks. You beat Georgie's, and then you got to start asking the questions. Could they? Maybe. It's not over till it's over.
You know what's going to happen to Altona? Next season, none of us are going to predict them to get relegated, and they're going to get relegated. That's what's going to happen.
Well, they'll be joining Hume, based on our big call always being one season late policy. It'll be I think the only manager, Nick, who could actually relegate this Altona team, ironically, is Roberto Martinez, because he's no good. He's a bona fide scrub.
Yeah, but he'll win him a trophy as well. That's the thing. He'll win them the Doherty Cup.
I've literally won, but at what cost? Let's head to VPL, and I'm just, Nick, there are plenty of games to talk about, but I'm going to clear the lane for you, mate. I know you've been hard at work in pre-production, getting stuff set up for the VPL 1 segment, so the floor's yours. Take it away.
Anyone see Mark Ivkovic?
Yeah.
2 wins on the bounce, Ivka.
His team's on top of the table by a mile.
Has anyone seen Mark Ivkovic? Look at the Lions go. No, look. As I said off the top. Oh, no.
Someone's had a go at the Lions. This can't happen. Someone outside the bench bagging it. This can't happen.
We've gone from Oz alert to Lion alert.
We have. That is the polar opposites. I made that to counteract that clip just there. You get the positive sun rising, and the big Lions logo shows up. All I got to say is, because as well, after the game, I was told, make sure you bring it up on the podcast because in the words of that Bombers fan, Lachie all those years ago, get a big dog up here. No, honestly, look, heartstopper last night, absolute goddamn heartstopper at the Venator Club, Bulleen v Langwarrin, 3-1 win. If you haven't seen it, we saw the goal of the week by a mile from Finn Harbinson, and Finn campaigning as well for the goal of the week as well. So not only is he, he felt he was hard done by not getting the goal of the week earlier this year against Brunswick Juventus when Dante Conte outdid him with that amazing volley that just pipped him to the post. But then he thought, fine, I'll do it myself and I'll pull out something from the top drawer. And what a goal it was, by the way. Just absolutely just walloping it from long range in off the crossbar. And there's something nice about when it smacks in off the post or off the crossbar and finds its way in. A really nice goal, which came minutes after Mateus Assumpção really, I don't know what happened there, but he missed this absolute gimme, which should have opened the scoring for Bulleen. Lachie got one back. Your boys, Lachie, they are very good in transition. Alan Webb was causing headaches, and they were dangerous from set pieces, and they got their goal through a man very close to your heart, Josh, Brad Blumenthal, who was able to get one back after half-time, and then it just became Bulleen banging on the door, and I'm thinking, geez, this is going to be just like that Brunswick City game a couple of weeks ago where they're doing all the right things, the process is good, the system is good, they're playing some really good football, but it's going to be just short. But Mo Rahimi, guys, I'll tell you what, he should also be in the mix for the goal of the week for different reasons. Getting the ball from halfway, taking it upon himself. He decides, no, Finn, you've had your goal. Connor Bell, you've had 9 of them this season. I'm going to take this on myself and walk it in. And a really nice goal to make it 2-1. And then Dante Avian getting his first goal for the club to make it 3-1. So entrenched in the top 6 now, guys, and they're making a good push for the playoffs, put themselves in a good position, and 3 games unbeaten now in his last 3 for Kristian Kristevski. And I got to say, he's got a really nice system in place at Bulleen. They're playing some really good football, and the signings as well that they've made in this window, with Jake Tchaikovsky coming in, has been brilliant defensively for them. They had Leon Alizart start yesterday, who I think will take a bit of time to bed into the system. Dante Avian's had some nice moments going forward as well, and obviously got his goal yesterday. So overall, I think positives. Positive little push now for Bulleen. I think they'd be quite happy. And going into this little run, they have finally kicked the injury curse to the point that they had 4 or 5 of their usual players that are in the squad watching on from the grandstand. That's the position they're in right now. So they're hitting their straps at the right time. Just
a point to those players that wanted to give some smack back to us. Well done. You beat a team in the relegation zone with 2 injury time winners. So
no, it wasn't. Hey, it wasn't the mate. It wasn't that. It was just. It wasn't the players. I will say that. But what I will say
Am I going to have to make an Ivka alarm? Someone's had to go at Ivkovic. This can't happen.
Jason, we played that every second.
I think someone outside the pod's bagging us.
Yeah. No. Look, you know what? They got it. Hey, winning these games are tough. They're tough games in the run home. Lachie are just as desperate, Lachie. They're hanging on now. They need to get on their skates because maybe you need to come back and commentate a game and save their skins. Maybe you're the good luck charm, El Flanagan.
Yeah, well, it's a mammoth game for them this weekend. The match against Brunswick they've got coming up. A Brunswick City side who beat Western United 5-0 on the weekend. By the way, it's not the 5 scoreline that I want to bring up. Ivka, the Melbourne Knights edge ever closer to a yo-yo out of VPL 1, and they did so scoring 4 goals in the first 25 minutes. A bit of Manningham United Blues caca out there in the eastern suburbs. What did you hear through your sources? What the bloody hell happened here?
Well, I did see Taufik Olamawewe get subbed after it was 4-0 in the first half, so it's not too positive.
It was 4-1, Ivka, point of order. It's 4-1.
Okay, sorry. But that for me, that was the only tricky game remaining for the Knights. That was the one I thought, they could drop points in that one, but geez, I saw I had the live score notifications going on Saturday, and I was quite happy once it was bang, 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 4-0, thanks for coming. Geez.
What do you think Nick Marinos said to the players in the post-game group chat? That's what I want to know.
Do you know who I am? I'm fucking Nick Marinos. That's who I am, mate.
What does his name mean? Not that. That's for sure.
Do you guys remember that iconic AFL coaches spray that was like, it was a work, but it was like, today's not the day the teddy bears had their picnic. Today's the day I realised there's 11 players who don't want to play for the footy club. Shove the can of Solar up your ass.
But the Knights run home now. Western United at home, Port Melbourne away, Langwarrin at home, Eltham away. I think it'll be done and dusted by the time they go to Eltham on that final day of the season. Theirs to lose. And that second last week of the season, Brunswick Ilve play Northcote. So one of those teams is going to drop points anyway. So Knights is to lose now. Barring a absolute fucking disaster, I think it's done and dusted.
Well, from Bulleen walking on sunshine to the Knights walking in sunshine, whoa. It's very, very good times to be the Melbourne Knights. Nick, are we just gonna anoint him now? Do we want to? I think
we
the
should.
pretenses of having nominees, or do we? I mean, we should give an honourable mention to one of the other games that did happen. Giorgio Serdennis scoring yet another great goal that would have been worthy of winning in many other weeks. I mean, Chris Engelhardt's goal we mentioned against Hume, but we've jilted him at the nomination altar, at the group sock altar before. I think it's time. We
had quite a few submissions. Carlton Westerdale's third goal and his hat-trick for Malvern City in VPL2, a really nice goal, which was in the mix.
Highlight of which, by the way, can I just add, was the VO footage that was provided to us was had the Nat sound on, and you could hear just standing underneath the VO the coach saying, and the best part is his reward is I'm subbing him off.
It reminds me of the classic bit of Northcote highlights. Was it the Northcote highlights or the Eastern? I forgot which.
Greg,
it's a game at
Zacharias.
Kingston. Right, Zacharias.
Yeah. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's Kotze getting caught on a hot mic celebrating a Northcote goal after explaining that Greg Zacharias is a former Northcote player.
Just on that Harbison goal.
I love how we make jokes that like 5 people will understand outside of this
I don't even
podcast.
think the person who is the subject of the joke knows that they said that.
Just on that Harbison goal. Yes, great hit. Yes, goal of the week.
Here we go. Here we go.
What's the leggy keeper doing, mate?
Ah, come on.
Come on, mate. You got to save that, surely. Was he sleeping? Maybe that late 8:30 kickoff. He's a bit tired after a long day's work.
Only sunshine in here, mate. It's only sunshine. We're not going down that far. No, the other one as well we have to give a shout out to was Takumi Niwa. His goal for Essendon Royals as well on the weekend. A beautiful goal at Cross Keys in there. Victory against Kingston City. The Royals right in the mix for promotion in VPL2. But it is Finn Harvinson. He's done the work. He's listened to the podcast. He knows that he felt he was jibbed of the last one, so he is the winner this week. I tell you what, when you go on the campaign trail and you're actually campaigning to win it, you win a few extra brownie points. It put the onus on us to make the decision. He had my vote from the second that went in. I messaged the group chat straight away and I said, guys, we have our winner. So Finn Harvinson, congratulations on winning the Grip Socks goal of the week. As well, just in terms of our a special shout out to the team at Best Grip, of course, as well. Of course, we had our goals of the week coming almost exclusively from VPL1 in the last few weeks. We also have a special giveaway at the moment with Best Grip as well on our socials where you can win $200 worth of grip socks and $100 cash. So head on over to our Instagram page for all the details. The entries actually close on August 2. So make sure you get on over there, follow the prompts and get involved, guys, because we're into the nitty-gritty of the season. And is someone from the top tier as well going to knock these VPL1 guys off? They're winning the grip socks. We've had Dante Conte, Alan Webb, Giorgio Serdennis, and now Finn Harvinson. We've got to, surely something big is coming from the top tier to try and get themselves some socks this week.
Well, based on their recent track record, it sounds like entering the competition may actually be a much easier way for an NPL player to get some socks than scoring.
We've even had a player from Church League who had a player from the VCFA get one.
Lift your game. Lift your game.
We're gonna have Josh from the sidelines, anointing someone for our team at Donvale if they score an absolute banger on the weekend. And be like, oh, there's our winner. There's our winner.
Yep. Thanking the Father, the Sock, and the Holy Spirit. Shall we get into some predictions for next week?
Let's get into the tips.
Okay, let's do it. Apologies for the momentary blasphemy there. Friday night is where it all kicks off, as always, in NPL Victoria, with the Bentley Greens hosting Oakleigh Cannons. Is the Piddler on the roof? Adam Pittick, Mark Ivkovic. Is he going to upset Oakleigh? Is this going to be a blip on the radar for them?
Well, you're going to tip an Oakleigh win, aren't you? So, do I go the sneaky result here to try and get one up here?
It's worked famously well for you in recent weeks. Yes, go for it.
Oakleigh will have too much in this one. I don't think they'll blitz them. Oakleigh 2-0.
You reckon they'll Prancer or Vixen or maybe even Rudolph? Josh, sorry. Someone make a prediction, please. Rescue me.
All right, I'll jump in if Josh isn't going to jump in. I mean, if you spoke about, having to make a bit of ground, the best way to make ground is just get the correct score right at this point, because if the results are looking like it's going to go one way, I'm going to say Oakleigh win this game 3-0.
Yeah, I'll go for an Oakleigh 2-0.
Does make me seem unoriginal, but it was what I was going to go with. Oakleigh 2, Bentley Greens 0.
Boring.
Preston, whatever, mate. Can't hear you from up the top at the moment.
Look at this guy parking the bus for the last few weeks. The Ange Postecoglou disciple parking the bus in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Where's your
it's true.
imagination, Lachie?
I've become the very thing I swore to destroy. Will Preston Lions destroy Green Gully on Friday night at a venue which, according to Dribble, is listed as behind closed doors, behind closed doors? That sounds like a new stadium. I haven't heard of that venue before, but it might be a good one. Josh, which way do you think this one's going to go?
It's an exclusive new live venue opening up on the west side of Reservoir. A reservoir, I should say. I've marked myself out as an eastern suburbs interloper with that pronunciation. Look, I think Preston should have too much for Green Gully. I'll go 3-1 Preston.
Ivka?
3-0 Preston.
Nicholas?
Behind closed doors, as well as literally the canteen doors closed as well for Josh. So a disappointing evening. So Josh, I hope you eat before you get there and you're nice and
Nick,
full by the time you get to the ground.
Bonus point for predicting that Josh will be hungry.
I'm going to say Preston win this game 2-0.
Well, the match commissioner told me before kickoff that he'd brought sandwiches, but he didn't offer me any, so...
It was just flexing on you. Just
that's nice,
that.
mate. Good for you.
I sleep in a racing car bed for you.
No. I have sandwiches. You don't.
Well,
I think he was just making small talk.
Well, Preston Lions will be sleeping in a big bed with their 3 points, because it will be Preston Lions 2, Green Gully 0, Green Gully 0, just for the avoidance of doubt. On to Saturday we go. A fascinating fixture between Hume City FC and Melbourne City, the 2 p.m. early kickoff from Nassiol Stadium. What say you, Nick?
Can you go first for a change? Because you're the leader.
No, I'm the host. No. Okay, I will, but not for this one.
Okay, fine.
Later.
Just trying to catch you out.
I'll wait until the easiest to predict game, and then I'll do that.
This is so hard because I just don't know who's going to be available for Melbourne City. So it's impossible to pick. I'm just going to sit on the fence. 1-1 draw.
Joshy?
Well, it sounds like Jacinta Allen will have officially left office by the time this game kicks off. So I'm going to say Hume City break the curse and win this one 3-1.
I reckon Hume scraping a 2-1 win.
It could be the Ben Carroll curse. That rolls nicely off the tongue.
Good on South Melbourne for going early and already posting a Polly picture before he's even officially got the role, by the way. That's outstanding bootlicking.
Get in there and make it about you. I appreciate that. I think Hume City are going to get in there and make this game about them. I'm going to go 1-0 Hume. I'm definitely not putting myself first for this one either. Avondale FC against Heidelberg United at Avenger Park, Ivka.
This is the hardest game to tip this week, I reckon.
Agreed.
And a 2:30 kickoff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems-
weird. I noticed that too.
Is there a double header that we haven't considered?
Maybe Heidelberg asked for it to be earlier so they can adjust to the kickoff time for the Doherty Cup final the following week, which they need to win this game to go into that final with some form, really.
Probably Heidelberg asked for it to kick off earlier so that they could prepare for the amount of stoppage time that we added at the end of the game if Avondale aren't winning.
Again.
Jeez, what a different type of game this is this time around. Probably a similar point of the season as well as last year. I have to sit on the fence for this one. 1-1.
Josh.
Ooh, I was hoping you would go to Nick. Yeah. I have to say, I don't know what I have to say. I was hoping it would come to me. I do think Heidelberg have got to win at some point, but I don't think they're going to win here. Avondale 2-1.
This is ridiculous. This is what I mean, Lachie. This is why you're top. This is why you're top. You pick off the carcass, mate. You
Well,
wait.
no, I don't host.
You skirt around the edges.
I've only hosted a handful of podcasts.
You said you tipped
And you haven't
at
been on a
7:29.
handful.
You
7:29, you wish, mate.
It sends them at 8:15 on a Friday.
When it's already half time in the first few games.
I haven't seen any scores, I swear.
It's true. It's true.
From the most 6:01 a.m. guy here, he's definitely watching the games.
This is disgraceful
Okay.
stalling tactics, Nick. Go on.
I'm going to say Avondale. Avondale 1, Heidelberg 1.
Hey, Nick and Ivka. Heidelberg 1, Avondale 1.
Up yourself.
Get that up, yeah. Get that up.
Where's the song? Play the song, Lachie. Play the song.
Are they ever going to see a win again? Not this week. Get beep, beep, beep. Altona, Magic, Caroline Springs, George Cross. All right, stuff is. I am going to go first, and that means I'm going to get it wrong. But I reckon Georgie's going to win 1-0. 1-0.
No, I disagree. I think Altona will win this one 1-0.
Ooh. Am I next? I think it's going to be a draw, as all Caroline Springs George Cross games are. I'm going to say 1-1.
In the famous words of the late, great Dennis Committee on AFL Live 2004, Josh, I disagree with you. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw.
Brilliant. Well done. Dandenong, the Dandy Derby. The Dandy Derby. Dandenong Thunder against Dandenong City. Saturday
Is this
night,
the least
George.
anticipated Dandenong derby
Yes.
of all time?
It is
Ever.
being described as one of the many fixtures on this Saturday. And I think Dandenong City are going to win it 2-1.
Think about the last time the Dandy Derby was at George Andrews Reserve. It was a bloody elimination final. Now it's a relegation 6-pointer. Oh, jeez. You would say Dandy City, but fuck. They struggle in this game, don't they? Oh, you know what? What'd you say, Lachie? 2-0 Dandy City?
Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Dandy Thunder 1-0.
I don't mind it.
Dandy City 1-0. Dandy City 1-0.
I'm going to say a 0-0 until the 95th minute, where former Dandenong Thunder player Wade Decker pops up with the winner and gives the shushing gesture to the home crowd. 1-0.
I was gonna say, could we? I thought you were leading us down the pathway of a Pierce Clark last minute winner, scoring what would be his first goal of the season.
So what you're saying, Josh, is that Dandy City are going to relegate Dandy Thunder courtesy of a Wade Decker goal in the 90th minute.
Hey, that's apparently what I'm going with.
And is this your sweet culmination of 2 years of hurt after your prediction at the start of last year?
Sure
about
is,
Danny
mate.
Thunder being relegated. So
What do you mean 2 years of hurt? I've been spot on, just a year late. That's exactly what I thought would happen.
That's the podcast. That's a podcast motto. We've got it pinned up on the podcasting room wall. Never wrong, just early. Just early. This is like the closest NPL Victoria's ever had to the Undertaker casket match, where the loser just gets buried and it's all over. They're finished. They're dead. All right, last game to predict for the weekend. An informed South Melbourne against a recently rebounded St Albans Saints Dynamo. Nicholas.
For the sake of wanting Mark Ivkovic to drop big coin, big amounts of coin, and buy his Platinum 2027 membership, and at the start of next year, be there round one, waiting at the gates for them to open up, and be there week in, week out. I'm going to say St Albans win this game 2-1.
I'm not sure what'll be bigger for Ivka if that does happen. The big coin he's going to spend, or the big caca that's going to come out if it does come to fruition. Joshua.
This is, 3 days after South plays Adelaide?
Yep.
I'm guessing there's going to be a bit of a cup hangover. I'm going to say 2-2.
South Melbourne 2-0.
Boring. You notice he's tipped against George Cross and against South Melbourne. He's got a rooting interest now. He's made a financial commitment.
The anxiety. If this weekend, if Georgie's a Dinamo win this weekend, oh boy.
Hey, you know what the players and coaching staff and fans of those two clubs are saying to you upon listening to this podcast, Ivka?
What?
I can feel this negativity coming out. I can't. I've got to wash myself off, boys. I've got to wash myself off because it's just sticking to me.
Well, if negativity sticks to you, the three of us are boned. It's all over for us after this. After the wellness positivity of this particular podcast, I'm going to say South Melbourne 1, St Albans Saints Dynamo 0. Do we think South Melbourne get the job done on Thursday? By the way, anyone giving them a chance?
If they take it to extra time, they might out. Like you've seen that happen in the other games. You might be able to get it. Depends. I don't think they're going to win in regulation, but by the time people listen to this, I may already have been proven wrong.
It doesn't count for points, Ivka, so you don't have to shoot yourself answering the question.
South Melbourne 17-0. No, I think they can actually win. I think they can beat Adelaide.
I think they will. I think they're going to get up. I reckon they're going to get it done.
Yeah,
it's going to be an extra time, so they're going to be, when St Albans comes down on Sunday, and then Ivka's going to be, oh no, when he sees the starting lineup at South Melbourne, have had to rest everyone.
It's what remains of South Melbourne FC against St Albans Saints.
Well, the funniest thing that can possibly happen is South Melbourne win the whole thing because they shouldn't have qualified in the first place, but for a technicality. So then maybe that's on brand. Maybe they're going to go all the way.
And how do the mighty Lions feel after they knocked South Melbourne out of the cup, but they didn't even get there because they lost the playoff? Come on.
They got the cup on a technicality of a championship who recommended them. But they are not fools. They are nothing, and it will not be a waste of time when South Melbourne take on Adelaide United this Thursday night. That's us for another week. We hope you've enjoyed all the madness. I'm going to try my best to resist any sonnets or musical-related urges that overcome me across the weekend. But if Ivka finds himself on the back end of St Albans and Caroline Springs George Cross loss or wins this weekend, I may not be able to be so lenient. But until then, from myself, Lachie Flanagan, Mark Ivkovic, Nick Dubano, and Josh Parrish, it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you all again next week.